My parents forced me to lose weight for my sister's wedding, but after my transformation, they couldn't handle my success. Growing up, I was always an overweight child. I've always been bigger than the majority of the other kindergarten students. While my peers were still figuring out what made them distinctive, my size had already stood out. As I grew older, the weight I carried became more visible. By high school, I was indisputably overweight, and my shape and girth served as a continuous reminder of my differences. College was not much different. While some of my peers began to find who they were or explore new aspects of themselves, I stayed stuck in the same identity, overweight, and occasionally fighting with it. It wasn't easy being the bigger kid. It exposed me to continual ridicule, mockery, and nasty comments from people who didn't know or care to understand me. Growing up, I was bullied more than I care to recall. Classmates teased me mercilessly. Their insults ate away at me, creating profound doubts and self-doubt that felt impossible to overcome. They'd call me names, tell cruel jokes, and I'd frequently be the punchline. I was always singled out as if I were somehow unworthy of affection or companionship. I was continually excluded from games, parties, and gatherings. It felt like I was always on the outside, watching everyone else go through the regular ups and downs of childhood and adolescence from a distance I couldn't reach. These years of bullying influenced how I perceived myself and responded to the world. I felt out of place with others, so I sought sanctuary in books. I lost myself in literature and stories that helped me escape my daily troubles. Books did not judge me, they did not ridicule me. I became known as the nerd, and I didn't like it all that much. Bonnie, my younger sister, was very different from me. She was only a year younger than me and possessed an effortless charisma that drew others to her. Bonnie thrived in social situations, whereas I was shy and reserved. She had a fascinating personality. She could go into a room and instantly have everyone smiling, laughing, and absolutely fascinated by her. Bonnie didn't just make friends easily, she seemed to have an intrinsic ability to persuade people to support her, almost as if she were the sun around which everyone gravitated. Regardless of our differences, I adored her. I took my job as her older sister seriously, feeling fiercely protective whenever she needed it. When she began attending the same high school as mine, I was overjoyed. Initially, being Bonnie's older sister made me feel proud, as if I had a particular place in her life. However, as she grew older, things began to alter. As Bonnie settled into high school and began to create her own personality, I saw a difference in how she perceived me. She began to see how different we were and how differently we were treated. Whereas I was the bookish, quiet kind, she was vivacious and popular, someone who rapidly established herself among the cool circle. I observed as she became aware of my eccentricities and insecurities, which had previously made me appear uncool. Bonnie began to distance herself from me as she found new pals. She would then try to actively ignore or avoid me in school. That hurt. It genuinely pained me that my own siblings saw me as inferior. Nonetheless, I did my best to accept her decision and give her the distance she appeared to require, even though it hurt to think I was losing not only my sister but also a friend. But gradually, Bonnie stopped ignoring me and began to associate with others who made me feel like an outcast. Bonnie and her pals would take advantage of any opportunity to humiliate me. Whenever we met in the corridors or at lunch, they'd taunt me in front of other students or, worse, try to trip me as I passed by with my lunch tray, just to make everyone laugh. It felt like I was losing her not to new people, but to the same taunting and abusive conduct I'd been subjected to for so long. I was always on guard, attempting to avoid not just my peers' criticism but also the humiliation inflicted by my own sister. It hurt a lot, especially because it came from someone I had always admired and looked up to. When Bonnie invited her friends over, they would all gang up on me at home. They would rush into my room without knocking, they'd laugh and gesture to my body. They'd fling insults like geek and fatty at me, like they were nothing. I felt like a zoo animal, as if I were their source of entertainment. When they entered my personal space in my room, I felt small and alone, as if I were an alien in my own home. I tried to explain it to my parents several times, hoping they would realize how tough it was for me to deal with Bonnie's conduct, but every time I brought it up, they dismissed my worries. They'd smile and defend her acts, claiming that this is how siblings bond, that Bonnie was only playing around with me. They told me it was harmless, even suggesting that I loosen up and stop taking everyone's taunts so seriously. They told me that I was older and should be more patient and resilient. So, not only did I face years of bullying from my peers, including my own sister, but my concerns were repeatedly rejected by my parents. It made me feel isolated, as if no one in my own family realized or understood how deeply it hurt. The only time I ever felt properly noticed by our parents was when I received my grades. Academics had always come effortlessly to me, and I became accustomed to receiving high grades. In a way, it was the one area where I felt superior to everyone else. It was also the one way I could make my parents proud, the one part of my life that they appeared to actually care about. My parents enjoyed bragging about my accomplishments to friends and relatives, portraying me as the family scholar, as if my grades were evidence of their parenting prowess. But Bonnie detested the analogies. She was not an academic overachiever, nor did she want to be, but our parents' repeated reminders of my accomplishments made her resentful. They put my grades up as an example, meaning that she needed to do the same. I could always tell she was frustrated and angry, which is probably why she did what she did to me. Bonnie would occasionally attempt to destroy my hard work in order to get back at me. She would sneak into my room in the middle of the night and grab my homework, often just before a major task was due. I'd wake up the next morning to find my perfectly completed work stolen. Panic would set in, and I'd feverishly hunt through my books, papers, and files, becoming increasingly anxious with each passing minute. And there she'd be, smirking, watching me from the doorway, relishing every moment of my anxiety. To her, it was a minor victory, a way to bring me down a peg and remind me that I wasn't invincible. She understood how important my grades were to me, how much of my self-worth I had invested in them, and she enjoyed disturbing that aspect of my life. I only found out about her stealing my assignments years later when she drunkenly admitted one evening. My relationship with Bonnie has softened over time, but we are still far from close. You could say we've matured a little, and some of the animosity from our youth has dissipated. However, the strong closeness that siblings often enjoy did not fully emerge between us. After graduation, I moved out and started a new life in a new city with an interesting job and new chances, which meant I didn't see my family as much. As time passed, our communications became limited to occasional phone calls or texts. So, last year, when I scheduled a summer visit home, I was truly excited to see everyone. It had been a long time since we'd all gotten together as a family, and I was excited to catch up and reconnect. However, not everything went as planned. Our family lunch began well enough. Everyone appeared delighted to see me, and for a moment, it felt like old times. That changed, however, when Bonnie unexpectedly revealed her engagement. None of us saw it coming, and we initially assumed she was joking. However, it was instantly apparent that she was serious. She proudly put out her hand, displaying a gorgeous ring, and I couldn't help but remark how exquisite it was. I was genuinely happy for her, delighted that she had finally met someone she loved and who loved her back. Almost as soon as the congratulations subsided, Bonnie turned to me and inquired about my recent activities. I told her about my profession, my life, and how rewarding things had been for me. Before I could finish, she cut me off. "I can't help but say this," she started, smirking. "But why are you still fat? I mean, if your life is truly amazing, shouldn't you have shed weight by now?" Her remarks hit me like a slap, reawakening old insecurities that I thought I had overcome. The room became uncomfortably silent, and I could feel everyone's gaze on me, waiting to see how I would respond. I merely shrugged and tried to laugh awkwardly at her comment, but my parents immediately joined in to criticize me. They began discussing how I was still obese and unmarried and how they were concerned I would never have children. I felt so mortified hearing them talk like that. My accomplishments, the work I was proud of, the life I had made for myself in another city, didn't seem to matter in their eyes. They were just concerned with my weight, and the fact that I did not have my own family. As my parents and sister continued to talk about me, their comments wounded deeper than I imagined. I had spent years eventually discovering myself, gaining confidence and freedom, but in those moments, I felt like the same nervous, awkward teenager I had always been, anxious for my family's acceptance and approval. My parents then applauded Bonnie for getting engaged before me and expressed their pride in her. To them, I was the inferior child, successful, but not quite enough. What was supposed to be a happy family reunion had swiftly turned into a heartbreaking reminder of old scars. At that point, I felt more like an outsider than ever. Bonnie did not stop. She continued to ask probing questions. So, when are you getting married? I mean, do you even have a boyfriend? She was blatantly mocking me in front of everyone by bringing up my romantic life. My parents soon jumped on the subject, agreeing with Bonnie that it was past time for me to find someone before it was too late. They pointed out how Bonnie, being younger, was settling down before me, whilst I, the older one, was wasting my life away at work. I attempted to argue that I liked my life the way it was, that my work and freedom provided me with fulfillment. My career paid well, and I was passionate about it, so why did I need to meet a spouse or have a child to be happy? I am content just the way I am, I informed them, but my words didn't appear to register. My mother especially appeared contemptuous. She gave me a sharp look and taunted me. What's the point of earning all that money if you don't have anyone to come home to? It was as if she couldn't believe that happiness existed outside of marriage or family. Sitting there, I had the typical feeling of being misunderstood, that my life choices were disregarded. This was my family, and they were supposed to know me best. However, they appeared to be preoccupied with a different definition of happiness than mine. I had come home seeking connection and warmth, but instead got judgment and taunts. Bonnie then smirked and added, I expect you to at least have a +1 by the time my wedding rolls around. She chuckled and kept going. I don't want people thinking my sister is some old miserable woman all alone while I'm getting married. The comment stung. I simply shook my head and assured her I'd try. That's when my folks spoke out again matter-of-factly. Bonnie's wedding is almost a year away. Even if you can't find a partner, you could at least try to lose weight and look more presentable for her wedding. They suggested that if I reduced weight, it would be simpler for me to attract a partner. Bonnie enthusiastically agreed with them. Yeah, I want you to lose a few pounds at least, she remarked nonchalantly, as if she was doing me a favor. I sat there, astonished and humiliated, with an aching that I hadn't felt in years. How could my relatives talk to me like this? Did I truly deserve their hateful words simply because I was overweight? Was I not meant to have feelings because I was fat? I was a normal person, just like them. I functioned like everyone else. I never considered my weight as an impediment, so why did they? I'd even dated men who liked me just the way I was, but my parents and Bonnie made it sound like my weight was preventing me from finding love or men approaching me, which wasn't even true. I wanted to defend myself and tell them how terrible their statements were, but I felt frozen, unable to find the correct words. Their statements took me back to high school, to the agonizing times when my weight made me a target. I despised how nonchalantly my family brought up my deepest concerns without considering how they made me feel. So I sat there, holding in my pain and let the topic go to anything else. When I returned home from my trip to see my family, I pushed myself into reducing weight with a zeal I had not realized I possessed. It began as a way to prove something to my family, but it gradually grew very personal. I joined a gym, followed a rigorous diet, and even hired a personal trainer. My trainer has been a lifesaver. After going through her own change from overweight to healthy weight, she knew just how to assist me through a path tailored particularly for me. She created a routine specific to my goals and encouraged me every step of the way, reminding me to give myself grace when I stumbled. This time, everything seemed to click. I started losing weight steadily, and as the pounds came off, I felt lighter, not just physically but also mentally. For the first time in my life, I began to feel and appear different. My confidence increased quickly. I used to assume that decreasing weight wouldn't have much of an influence, but it has. People see me differently today. Strangers are nicer and more attentive. Friends and colleagues see me with fresh respect. I can't deny that this seems like a validation I've never gotten before. It's as if I've suddenly become more noticeable than I was before. My new body brought a new sense of style. I overhauled my entire wardrobe, filling it with items I had only fantasized about wearing. I even opted for a full hair makeover, attempting a daring and trendy style that I would have been too afraid to try in the past. Perhaps it seems expensive, but I've never felt so good. I look in the mirror now and don't recognize the person staring back. It's like meeting a version of myself that I never knew existed. I'm proud of how far I've come, not just because I lost weight, but also because I gained confidence and self-assurance. With Bonnie's wedding just 2 weeks away, my family has invited me to fly down and join them for lunch next week to finalize the plans for her special day. But I don't feel like returning home. I don't want my family to ridicule me again or make me feel tiny, especially now that I'm finally feeling good about myself. For the first time in a long time, I don't want to go to Bonnie's wedding anymore because of how she and my parents have treated me. But I know if I don't go, they'll be furious and give me a long lecture about how family is family and how no matter how heartbroken I am, I must be present for Bonnie's big day. So, what happens if I do not attend my sister's wedding? Update 1. Wow, I'm overwhelmed by everyone's response. Some of your proposals are truly humorous. I can't believe you're encouraging me to show up and mess with my sister now that I've lost so much weight. Growing up as a fat kid had a negative impact on my self-esteem, particularly in terms of how I perceived myself. I struggled with self-doubt for a long time, always believing that I wasn't good enough or didn't measure up to others. But reading all of your responses has been a game changer. It's as if you've helped me see myself in a completely new light, and I'm finally starting to feel more confident than I ever have. In fact, I'm seriously considering turning up to my family's lunch and shocking them. They haven't seen me in a long time, and since I don't use social media, they have no idea how much weight I've dropped. It will be interesting to witness their reactions. Update 2. Okay, Reddit, you're not prepared for this upgrade. Grab some popcorn because things are about to get exciting. I decided to fly down to join my family for lunch, as I previously stated. I believed that when they saw me, they would be proud of the transformation I had undergone. After all, they were the ones who pushed me into it in the first place. Surely they'd be overjoyed to see the positive improvements in me and finally recognize the effort I'd put in. When I walked into my parents' house, their jaws absolutely dropped. They looked at me, stunned, as if they couldn't believe I was the same person. After a time, they stammered, wondering if it was actually me. I gave them a big hug, thrilled with their reaction. They continually complimented my appearance, saying how beautiful I looked and how they couldn't believe it was me. However, when Bonnie came, the situation changed. She didn't notice me at first, disregarding me as if I were invisible, as she had done so many times before, but when I rose up to greet her, she did a double take, her eyes widening with surprise. She gave an odd, almost forced laugh before reaching over and pushing her fingers on my stomach, wide-eyed, as if she wanted proof that I had truly dropped all of that weight. My parents laughed at her reaction and explained that they too couldn't believe it at first. As we settled in for lunch, the subject turned to my makeover. Bonnie and my parents bombarded me with questions about how I had done it, marveling at how different I appeared. Their voices were full of surprise, as if they had never imagined I could look any other way. Bonnie, in particular, kept saying that she had never anticipated me to alter so dramatically after dropping weight. Then she dropped this gem. When I first asked you to lose weight, I never expected you to look this pretty. I didn't even know you had that jawline and those ankles beneath all that fat." I hesitated, attempting to maintain my cool, and smiled at her before reminding her. "Bonnie, I've always been pretty. Losing weight just enhanced my features." Bonnie, on the other hand, contended that there was something more about me that was distinct. Then she had the courage to ask, "Did you have some surgeries done on yourself?" "Because there's no way you look this good by yourself." I could feel my blood starting to boil. The hubris to believe that I required surgery to look attractive, when in fact I had worked so hard to get my current appearance. I looked her directly in the eyes and replied, "Wow, Bonnie, it's amazing that you think that little of me. No surgery, just a lot of hard work and self-love, something you might want to try sometime." Bonnie's expression changed from surprise to displeasure, but I didn't care. It felt amazing to finally say something and put her in her place. Before she could react, my parents jumped in, attempting to smooth things over in their own way. "You shouldn't be offended," my mother replied. "The three of us have just never seen you look this way before. Honestly, you look even more beautiful now than Bonnie does, and she's the one getting married." Bonnie appeared much angrier following Mom's remark. I simply ignored her and concentrated on my food, allowing my sister to seethe in her rage. Then my mother joined in. "You know, I was thinking maybe you should go back to your original hair color. I think you'd look even better with your natural shade. This blonde look makes you stand out too much. Maybe you should just go back to your old look." Bonnie and my father quickly agreed with her. My dad concurred with my mom and said, "Bonnie has always been the blonde daughter of the family, and you were the brunette, so it would be a good idea for you to go back to your original hair color. It might make you look more like yourself." Hearing their statements, I was taken aback. I suddenly felt like the three of them were ganging up on me, attempting to bring me down. My hairstylist had suggested that I change my hair color to blonde because it better matched my skin tone and complexion. It had nothing to do with attempting to outperform or overshadow my sister. I could see why Bonnie was jealous of me. I looked nice now, but I couldn't figure out why my folks were so unhappy with me. It was as if they wanted to transform me back into who I was, despite the fact that they had wanted me to be more acceptable for their darling daughter's forthcoming wedding in the first place. But now that I did, they couldn't accept who I had become. Instead of recognizing my progress, they sought to undermine me. I finally questioned my parents. "What's your problem? Why can't I be blonde too? Does my sister own that color or something?" I paused, annoyed. "No, she doesn't. I can be blonde or brunette, it's my choice. Why does it even matter to you so much?" I couldn't understand why they were so obsessed with my returning to my former self, as if my appearance had to match who I was before. My mother scoffed at me and claimed that I was purposely attempting to undermine Bonnie's wedding by making an effort to stand out with my appearance. Bonnie joined in, stating, "With your weight loss, you're already going to stand out, so do you really need to take my hair color too?" My father, as usual, agreed with him, telling me that I was being difficult for no reason and that as Bonnie's sister, I should be more tolerant. I couldn't believe what I heard. It was not about stealing anything. It was about having the ability to do whatever made me happy, but instead of supporting it, they were all concerned about how it would make Bonnie uncomfortable. "You know what? I'm done with this," I murmured, the words almost burning as they formed from my lips. "The three of you are so caught up in your own negativity that you can't even accept that I've changed. The truth is, I've always been amazing just the way I am, but none of you ever saw it. Now, even after I've lost weight, it's still not good enough for you. No matter what I do, it's never enough." I took time to process what I had just said. They only gazed at me, and it didn't matter. I was done with holding back. "Since you all have so much to say about me, I think it's time I gave you some unsolicited advice, just like you love to give me." I turned to my mother first, feeling the words surge inside me like a deluge. "Mom, I really hate how loose the skin is around your eyes and your lips. They droop on one side when you laugh. I can't help but notice all your crooked teeth, and honestly, it's just disgusting to me. I just gave her a second to react before turning to my father. Dad, I said with a stern voice, you're bald. You really have no right to say anything about anyone's hair or their hair color. How are you going to criticize someone's looks when you can't even keep a full head of hair? I noticed his face stiffening, but I wasn't finished yet. Finally, I resorted to Bonnie. And you don't ever talk down to me again. Between the two of us, I've always been the better-looking sibling, but now with all the weight I've lost, you look even fatter than me. Just look at those chubby arms of yours. Bonnie's face flushed with shame, and she appeared to be about to burst into tears. I then hoisted my glass, downed my drink in one go, and walked out with a smirk, leaving everyone stunned and astonished. I had spoken everything I needed to say. I couldn't believe those words had come out of my mouth, but I didn't regret them one bit. They deserved to be humiliated after years of being criticized. After lunch, I flew directly back home. I did not want to stay behind and attend Bonnie's wedding. Since then, my phone has been overloaded with voicemail and texts from my parents and Bonnie. They've been calling me disrespectful and foul-mouthed for how I spoke to them and for simply leaving. Mom even insists that I fly back down to attend Bonnie's wedding because it won't look good to her in-laws if I don't. Update 3. So, I ended up skipping Bonnie's wedding. Thanks to all of your suggestions, instead of returning home to attend, I decided to treat myself to an impromptu stay at a 5-star resort. Honestly, it was one of the best moves I'd made in a long time. I spent the weekend doing whatever made me happy, no drama or pressure, just pure enjoyment. I treated myself to a spa day, binge-watched my favorite shows, and even visited some new places in the city I'd been longing to see. I've also blocked my relatives so they can't contact me again. I'm weary of being bullied by them, and want to avoid all of the poison and drama right now. My primary focus is on self-care. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you. My delusional stepdad ruins my $900 prom dress out of spite. Now we're taking him to court for the damage, and the drama unfolds. My delusional stepdad deliberately destroyed my $900 prom dress because I refused to give his golden child son money for his prom outfit. He got what was coming to him. I've never posted here before, but I really need advice because I'm so upset and have no idea what to do. I'm only 17 and not sure if there's any legal action I can take. For some context, I live with my biological mom and her husband since my parents separated and were never married. I originally lived with my dad from the age of 2. He won custody in the custody battle, but he later lost custody after a severe work accident left him paralyzed, making it impossible for him to take care of me. I still see him every weekend and spend the entire summer with him. When I was 10, I moved in with my mom, her husband, and their 2 sons, one stepbrother and one half-brother. Ever since then, my stepdad has made it clear, both directly and indirectly, that I've disrupted their lives by re-entering my mother's life because I'm just another person they have to take care of. I've been working since 10th grade and have been saving up for my senior year in college since last year with the money from my job. My mom and her husband made it clear that my mom would only help with the basics, like my graduation cap and gown, senior dues, and senior class photo. Everything else, like prom, I'd have to pay for myself. I earn about $400 every 2 weeks from my job, which I've been saving entirely, and I make extra money by doing nails, around $100 a week plus tips, which I use for spending money. Since it's my senior year and the last year of high school, I wanted to go all out for prom, so I set an $800 budget for my prom dress. My prom is in April, and I wanted to get my dress early since the really cute ones sell out fast. So, I went prom dress shopping in December and found a gorgeous dress that cost $890. It's dark green, with a long train, rhinestones embedded into it, and glitter throughout the fabric. When I first showed my mom and stepdad the dress, they asked how much it was. My mom said she wouldn't pay for a dress that expensive, but I told them it was fine because I had more than enough money saved up to buy it and would still have plenty left, $223,000 to be exact, though only my mom knows that. My mom said I could get the dress, and that it was very pretty. However, my stepdad said it was irresponsible and a waste of money and that I should use it for better things, like helping out the family and paying some bills, suggesting I get a cheaper dress for no more than $300. Mind you, both his sons own PS5s and multiple pairs of $200 plus shoes. Long story short, my mom disagreed with him, and I ended up getting the dress. She even contributed $150 toward it. However, ever since then, my stepdad constantly brings up that I should help pay for things around the house since I have so much money to throw away, but my mom always shuts him down, saying that I work hard for my money and that I already help out by paying for Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Hulu bills while my 18-year-old stepbrother doesn't pay for anything. Last Saturday, we had a huge argument because my stepdad suggested that I should help my stepbrother pay for his prom, to which I firmly said no. He later called me selfish and said it wasn't fair that I get an expensive outfit while his son doesn't. I guess I responded with some snark, saying, "That's not my child or my problem." He then tried to complain to my mom, who sided with me, saying that if anything, he should pay for his own son's prom. Well, today I woke up from a nap and noticed my prom dress was missing from my closet. It was right at the front, so I immediately noticed it was gone. I asked my stepdad if he'd seen it since my mom was at work, and he told me with a condescending smile that he was washing it. I immediately ran downstairs and saw my dress being washed on the heavy-duty cycle. I canceled it right away, but the damage was done. Most of the rhinestones had fallen off, the glitter had washed out, and the entire dress was mangled. I took one look at it, then threw it in a trash bag and left for my friend's house, taking the dress with me. I texted my mom and sent her pictures, but I'm currently at my friend's house lying on her bed. Her parents hung the dress outside to air dry so that my stepdad can't blame them if it was dried in the dryer. I know he did this to spite me because he never washes clothes, cooks, or does anything around the house since he considers himself the man of the house. So, there was no reason for him to be washing my dress, even if it needed washing. Is there anything I can do? I realize either of them can replace it considering their difficult financial situation. I'll keep you all posted when Mom gets home. So far, my stepdad has called twice, but I haven't picked up, and my mom's at work and unable to take calls. Edit. I'm not sure how to add updates, so I'll just include an edit. My mom and I just spoke on the phone, and she's furious and on her way home. My friend, her dad, and I are heading to my house now, and my mom said she was going to call the cops as soon as she finished talking to me, so they might be there by the time I arrive. We've taken pictures, and my uncle, who is my mom's brother, will be over by 8 because I contacted him while he was at work. I'd been considering your suggestions about withdrawing my money from my account, and I discussed it with my dad, who told me I could stay with him. Edit SL update. When I got home, my friend stayed in the car while her dad walked me in, and my stepdad was already gone. However, the police were at the house. As of now, the police said they couldn't really arrest him because it's not like he technically stole anything. It's hard to explain, but basically, they said that because he washed the dress and didn't keep it, it's not considered theft. They suggested I could get a confession and have him pay or take him to small claims court. Also, the dress is non-refundable if damaged, so I can't return it or anything. While explaining everything to my mom, I got flustered and started crying, and she hugged me as I cried and told me that he's going to pay for this. This financial issue has been an ongoing argument, and I think he just pushed her too far this time because she's really angry. I also talked to my uncle, and he's off work and on his way over. Apparently, my uncle and stepdad have a rocky history since my stepdad has mouthed off to him in the past. When I explained what happened, my uncle reassured me that everything would be okay, and if needed, he would buy back the dress before it sells out so I'll still have it for prom. He does expect my stepdad to pay me back one way or another, so it looks like I'll probably end up with my dress for free. Maybe that's a small victory. I'll likely update more later tonight, but things seem to be heading in the right direction. Edit. To clear up any confusion, I pay for the streaming service bills because I really want to watch the shows on those platforms, and my mom works hard but doesn't earn enough to afford those services on top of everything else. So, I offered to pay for them so we could have them. She's not the kind of mother who would pick her husband over me, and she always defends me. My stepdad has never pulled a stunt like this before. He just tries to convince her to control my money and savings, but she's never touched my savings. I feel like that's why they always clash, because he has this mindset that we have all these financial troubles and your daughter could solve them with her savings, and you have access to them. My uncle came over, and he and my mom had a bit of an argument because he blamed her for enabling my stepdad's behavior by not leaving him, which he thinks is why my stepdad felt comfortable doing what he did. She argued back, saying she's always defended me against him and has never taken any of my money, which is true. We all talked about it for a while, and she revealed that they actually had an argument last night about paying off a car payment. She mentioned how all these bills are wearing her down, and he responded by saying it wouldn't be such a burden if she used my savings and didn't let me spend it on foolishness. She got angry and defensive because he keeps bringing it up. He also pointed out that the $900 I spent on my dress could have covered the car payment for the next 2 months. By the way, he only knows about my savings because he knows how much I get paid and that I've been saving all of it, so we think that's what triggered him to throw my dress in the washer. My mom and stepdad have been texting back and forth, and he admitted that he washed the dress to teach me a lesson about not spending so much money on something that can be ruined so easily. But he deliberately set the washer to heavy duty, so it's clear he intended to destroy it. My uncle has offered to replace the dress so I don't need to worry about not having my special dress. We called the boutique and explained everything, and they said they could order another dress, though it won't arrive until February 23rd, which is fine. My mom sent my stepdad a long, threatening message, basically calling him out. She's really heated right now, so I'm going to try to ask for a screenshot later. She and my dad also talked and decided it would be best if I got my own bank account so that my stepdad can't use the excuse that she has access to my account, which is also great. My mom and I had a discussion about what's going to happen next, and she said she's not sure yet because it's all a bit overwhelming for her. She's seriously considering leaving him, but I guess she doesn't want to talk about that just yet. My stepdad is currently staying at a friend's house. I'll keep updating, and I might have another one tomorrow. My friend's parents are going to keep the dress at their house, and I'll pick it up tomorrow to have his proof. My uncle has wired me $1,000 for my prom dress, and I'm planning to use the money to replace the dress and buy new shoes. He's quite well off, which is one of the reasons I reached out to him in the first place. I'm going to call the boutique and see if they can reorder the dress, and I'll just pick it up sometime in February. However, we still want my stepdad to pay in some way, and we're working on that. My uncle has also called my other uncles and aunts, with my permission, to vent about this situation, so now most of my mom's side of the family, who all live in Georgia, are aware of what happened. I woke up to a flood of texts expressing sympathy, and even some offers of money for prom, which have added up to about $300, so that's a positive outcome. My mom also contacted my step-in-laws, who then spread the news complete with pictures, and I guess most of them are shocked, except for his mother, who is still buying his excuse that it's just a dress and it was an accident, despite the evidence. I also got a call from my stepdad's sister, who expressed sympathy, and through our conversations, I learned that my stepdad has been asking a lot of his family for financial help because, for some reason, he's bought so many things on credit that he can't keep up with the payments. My mom called my stepdad for answers, which we recorded, and he's basically trying to blame her, saying that if she hadn't pissed him off last night, he wouldn't have done it. He claimed he was trying to teach me a lesson about being responsible with money, and that he had planned to lecture me afterward. My mom has now broken up with him because he blamed her for caring more about me than him, which is bizarre. This led to an argument where my mom said, "You think I care about her more than you? Well, you're about to see just how much I do." Their relationship had already been rocky because he can't manage money, and this was the final straw for her, so a lot has happened. First off, we've placed an order for my dress, and it's being shipped now. It should arrive at the boutique by February 23rd, so that's sorted. My stepdad and mom are officially broken up, but my mom isn't sure yet if she'll proceed with a divorce because everything is still so fresh, and lawyers are expensive, and she can't afford it right now. They also have a prenup, so they don't share any assets, and the house is my mom's. It was her dad's house that she inherited. She had a different dad from her siblings, who all share the same father. My stepdad came back with his brother after a while and tried to make up for everything by buying me a new dress from Macy's that's similar in color and length to the original, but it's very tacky and ugly and looks nothing like the dress I originally had. He then tried to apologize, saying it wasn't his intention to ruin the dress and that he was just going to wash it to make a point, like, "See, this is why you don't buy things like this." And then he would have bought me another dress, but that EXP makes no sense at all. My uncle also came back to the house after I texted him that my stepdad had returned. My uncle was at the store when he got my message, and when he arrived, they got into a huge argument. My uncle demanded to know why my stepdad destroyed the dress, but my stepdad said he wasn't going to let anyone walk into his house and start making demands. My uncle called him a name, and my stepdad told him to say it again, so he did, and they ended up fighting. My stepdad lost the fight and then threatened to call the cops, but we reminded him that he swung first. After that, he went on a rant, cussed us out, and left, taking the dress with him. We're actually planning to follow your advice and take him to small claims court, considering the evidence and the damage. Hopefully, we'll come out on top. Right now, my stepdad is staying at his parents' house. For those curious about my brothers, here's an update. My 15-year-old half-brother was at his girlfriend's house since Friday, so he missed all the drama, but he reached out to me today. I love him so much. My 18-year-old stepbrother, on the other hand, has basically taken his dad's side, so there's not much more to say about that. Also, for those who suggested changing the streaming passwords, I've done that, and my mom and I are going to set up a new bank account for me later today. Thanks so much for all the support. I'll keep you updated as we make plans and hopefully get a favorable verdict. Now to the next story. Story 2. My wife overreacts to our daughter's minor injuries, causing strain in our parenting and increasing tension within the family. My 28F wife, 26F Sophia, takes every scratch our daughters 7 and 5 get extremely seriously. Every bruise, every scrape, knee, every cut is an emergency to her, and because they're emergencies to her, they become emergencies to the girls. Not only does this mean it's hard to tell when an injury is actually dangerous. Did she twist her ankle or break it? Is her arm bruised or fractured? But the kids are responding badly to any hurt they feel. Now, at the mere sight of blood, the 7-year-old starts wailing like she's been stabbed. Even worse, her sister has started intentionally banging her arm into things or falling on concrete if she thinks she's not getting enough attention. Last week, my wife took the oldest one to urgent care because she got a canker sore, and Sophia was convinced it was something more sinister. While she was gone, I had the younger one, who was upset that Sophia had spent so long on her sister and had now taken her to the doctor to get special attention, so she threw herself on the tile floor in front of me and started screaming and holding the wrist she hadn't actually twisted. I'm so tired of all of this. I just let her scream. When I didn't give her the attention she wanted, her screaming in pain turned into sobbing because I wasn't cuddling her and kissing her better and promising her cookies and a late bedtime. I told her I'd be in the den with the cats when she felt like joining us. I felt like a jerk for letting her cry herself out, but she's never going to learn to walk off scooter falls or getting hit with dodgeballs at this rate, and she can't be rewarded for this kind of behavior. It's just not healthy. Eventually, she ran out of tears and came to sit with us, and I let her have a watered-down soda. Well, when Sophia got back with the older kid, who now had the same numbing gel we already had in the cabinet and a $200 urgent care bill, our younger daughter told her what happened, and now she's furious at me for ignoring something that could have been serious. I told her she's the one making mountains out of molehills and feeding into the actual dangerous behavior. We've been fighting about it all week, and the kids have only been acting up more as a result. I'm so tired of this. Maybe my appendix will burst, and I can spend a few nights in the hospital away from this insanity. Comments: OP on if her wife had PPD when she got pregnant and gave birth. Did her wife have any medical trauma? OP: no and no, both of them were adopted, and to the best of my knowledge, she's never had negative doctor experiences. If she had it, wouldn't make sense to keep dragging the girls in for scratch knees. She's absolutely setting them up for failure. She just refuses to see that. If someone here can convince her to see a therapist, or an ounce of reason related to this specific situation, then they're miracle workers. She's great in almost every other aspect. I love her, but the constant coddling and panicking is getting ridiculous. Did OP and her wife have infertility problems? OP: no, as far as I know, both of us were perfectly healthy reproductively speaking. All pregnancy is dangerous, and IVF usually results in multiples, increasing the risks or forcing termination of it. It doesn't take right, and they're ridiculously expensive. A lot of places aren't exactly trustworthy when it comes to ensuring the health of sperm donors, etc. There wasn't a chance in hell I was ever carrying children, so that was out. She never fought to carry them. When we decided we wanted kids and we were in a place that it was feasible, we looked for agencies and found our girls. OP on the relationship her wife has with their daughters and if she's overprotective. OP: we've had long talks that always dissolve into arguments over the subject. As I understand it, she really sees nothing wrong with what she's doing. She wants to make the girls feel like they'll be seen and taken care of, but she's going too far. She does spend time with them regularly. She has an office job and has them alone from 6 p.m. onwards on days when I work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and she doesn't work on weekends at all. But yes, the younger one has definitely learned that making it look like she's hurt herself or actually hurting herself, however minor, is a surefire way of getting Madre's attention. Not sure I helped last week. I don't want her thinking Mama doesn't care, but I just could not bring myself to reward her pretending to be hurt. That's an interesting idea. It might help the girls, although I don't see it changing Sophia's behavior much. Update: wow, my first post got more popular than I was expecting. Not a full update, but a few people were curious, so I thought I'd throw this out there with some of this week's developments and some clarifications. This sub only allows 2 updates, so the next one, if I end up publishing it, probably won't be anytime soon. TLDR: my 28F wife, 26F, has been making our daughter's injuries worse by treating all of them like an emergency. This has led to the older one, 7, to genuinely believe that every injury could be fatal, and the younger one, 5, to realize that if she's hurt, she gets special things like cookies, candy, extended bedtimes, movies, etc., and is the main source of conflict in our marriage. Clarifications: 1. This is not Munchausen by proxy. Y'all have got to lay off the Hulu DACA series and stop trying to diagnose strangers with serious and sinister medical issues based on one post written by their annoyed spouse. My wife does not hurt them. She is not poisoning them or looking for drugs to feed them or posting all over social media about how great she is and how lucky the girls are, etc., 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 or trying to scam people out of money or a Habitat for Humanity house. Sophia is not worrying for the attention of it. She is trying to ensure that they don't feel ignored and neglected to the point that she takes everything that they say seriously. But she's gone too far, and it is now backfiring. The few people who pointed out that the younger's behavior of faking injuries or actually giving herself a bruise could develop into something more serious are correct. However, which is a concern that I also have. 2. Attention. The girls get attention. They get plenty of attention from both of us. They are not being neglected to the point that they need to injure themselves as a cry for help. For one thing, my older daughter doesn't do that. She is just genuinely convinced that bruises could be internal bleeding, and any bump on the head could be a concussion, which means that I'm going to have to give her the period talk pretty soon or she's going to think she's dying if she starts early. For another thing, the younger one tends to only do it when she thinks her sister is getting something she wants, or we said no earlier in the day. They get attention, but they get special attention when they're sick or hurt. Someone in the comments last time, don't remember the name, suggested flipping it to discourage the younger girl's behavior by essentially taking away fun things and forcing them to rest when they're sick or hurt. A few other people suggested pain charts of some variety, or first aid classes. Those might help with the older one and Sophia herself. That was probably the most viable advice I got. However, well-meaning and true, a lot of other stuff was, therapy right now is not an option. You can suggest it all you want, I can and have suggested all I want, but as of right now, it will not be happening anytime soon. We had a very bad experience with a highly regarded adoption specialist therapist a few years ago that resulted in our older daughter having more issues with her adoption than she did when we started. Issues that we've had to figure out how to manage on our own because the two therapists we tried after that only compounded and exacerbated those new issues. My daughter would have been better off if she'd never been to therapy in the first place. As a result, my wife has lost almost all of her faith in mental health professionals. Quite frankly, I lost the majority of mine as well, and while I've made mention of it to Sophia, my bigger focus is on getting her to just change this one behavior. Was my wife traumatized as a child by being medically neglected? To the best of my knowledge, no. She doesn't have any long-term health issues, and she was never very involved in any physical and potentially dangerous sports when we were in school. Her family hasn't suffered from very many illnesses or accidents, even during COVID. So, while I've driven myself to an emergency dentist before and broken my wrist without even knowing it, the only time she's ever been in a hospital was to pick her dad up from a colonoscopy, at least before she started taking our daughters in for benign bumps, bruises, and cuts. No, my wife does not have anything postpartum. The actual update, after a couple of other comments brought up how my girls behave away from us, I decided to ask. My wife works a normal 9 to 5, while I work 3 12s from 6 p.m. to a.m. on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. During the winter, they have school and daycare, respectively. This winter, the younger one will be in kindergarten, though, and during the summer, they both go to daycare from about 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on my work days and just in the mornings on other days as needed. I do drop-offs and pick-ups. When I picked them up on Monday, I decided to ask one of the caretakers how the girls had been behaving. She told me they were fine, they bickered sometimes, but there was nothing unusual going on. I asked what happens when they get hurt or feel sick during the day, how they handle it, etc. I didn't tell them about my wife. I didn't want to be telling tales out of school. I think she might have thought I was looking for help, which I was technically, because she told me that as soon as a kid falls down or takes a ball to the face or anything else, they start the whole interaction by telling them, "You're okay," and assessing the damage calmly as they approach. Even if the kid is bleeding, they don't react. They say something like, "Wow, that looked kind of scary. I bet it surprised you. Let's see your arm. Leg. Whatever." She basically wrote me a script. I asked her how my girls reacted to it, and she told me that the older one was a little more sensitive than her peers. She cried easily, and they had to be extra firm with the ears with her. The younger one, she saw a little less. She's in a different age bracket. She only just turned 5, so she's still technically in the pre-K group, but she'd never heard anything about her. I asked what exactly they do if a kid is bleeding or bruised. For bruises, they can sit with a little ice pack for 15 minutes before they need to come back to the ground, unless it's actually serious, and for cuts, they get it washed and a Band-Aid. So, nothing exciting as far as I could tell. The fact that we haven't been called into the school to pick up our totally terribly injured 5-year-old before tells me that she knows she won't get Madre's special treatment at the school. And since I will be the one picking her up if they think she's too sick or something, there's really no point in kicking up too much of a fuss unless she just wants to hold something cold for a few minutes. Neither of the girls have been hurt or sick this week. We stopped arguing because I frankly do not have the energy to do so constantly. I'll look into the pain chart and first aid classes and bring up boring damage mitigation soon, once we've both had time to calm down. Additional information from OP, I'm going to put this here since apparently it needs to be said. I am aware that saying, "It's okay," or "You're okay," the way the daycare workers do is a good idea. This is what I have been trying to implement for a long time. Even if a child is genuinely hurt, adults need to remain calm to keep the child calm. If an adult is upset, then the already upset kid will become more upset. And if that kid isn't upset, then they will be when they see their parents freaking out. I am not looking for excitement. I genuinely have no idea how you read my post and got that impression. None. If I'm playing checkers, you've started a game of chess. I am trying to end the excitement. When I said nothing exciting in my post, it was not because I don't want to implement something boring. It's because I do. I very much want my kids being hurt to stop being exciting or rewarding. That is the entire point of everything here. Of a week of arguing, of every other argument before this one, there was no one working up my older daughter. The younger one wasn't getting rewarded. If anything, being her at daycare got her essentially a timeout with an ice pack or rubbing alcohol and a pat on the back. That is a good thing. That is what I want. On communicating with her wife about their daughters and how to react if they got hurt. I've talked with her a lot about it. It used to start when she was already worked up because one of the girls was hurt or something, and I tried to calm her down and help the girls calm down. She'd be so keyed up that it would turn into a fight fast. So, after a while, I stopped trying to interfere at the time because us arguing while one girl, and inevitably the other, cried wasn't exactly helpful. After that, I started waiting until after all of the excitement of the emergency had passed by to bring it up, especially when the younger girl started intentionally falling or bumping into things. I tried to tell her that making a huge deal out of every scrape was just making things worse and the girls needed to figure out how to self-regulate and tell if they were actually hurt or not. She would accuse me of being callous and tell me she wasn't going to make our daughters feel helpless, hurt, and abandoned. And no matter how hard either of us tried, it dissolved into another argument. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories that are happening around you.